Charlotte. When I was a young child, I had a playroom filled with toys that had accumulated over many holidays and birthdays. I remember sitting in the middle of that room, playing with my toys every day. My mother and I were reminiscing one morning as I was packing my things to move into my new apartment when she brought up that playroom. She said that she always thought it was odd that I would sit in that room for hours, playing with a single toy telephone. She mentioned that it was a toy I had received for my first birthday, and that she was surprised I hadn't lost interest by my 6th birthday. This brought back memories of my playroom and that telephone. I remembered exactly why I had begun playing with it, and why I had stopped. I was 4, and it was the week after Christmas. We had just relocated all my new toys from the living room to the playroom, and I was eager to settle into my usual spot in the center of the room. I had only just sat down and picked up a toy horse when I heard a strange sound. It was similar to the haunting sound of a music box nearing the end of its tune. I looked around and saw nothing that should have been making that sound, so I continued galloping my toy horse around the carpet. The noise grew louder and more persistent, so I began scooting toys away from the direction the sound was coming from. I finally traced the melody to a small plastic phone resting against the wall. It was a simple phone in appearance, white with a spinning dial and a red plastic earpiece. The only thing I had ever found unsettling about this particular toy was the set of eyes that flipped back and forth as you pulled the string attached to it. Being a somewhat lazy child, I didn't feel the need to stand up to retrieve the phone. I reached over, grabbed the string, and pulled the toy to me. As the eyes flicked back and forth, the haunting melody grew louder and faster. I assumed this was normal for the toy. I thought maybe it had batteries that were beginning to die. I picked up the handset and held it to my ear. "Hello? This is Charlotte," I said, imitating my mother when she answered the telephone. Oddly, I heard static coming from the smooth plastic handset. "Hello," I said again slowly. There was a clicking sound, and the phone's tune stopped. This routine went on for about a week until finally, someone began talking to me through that phone. It said its name was Mordred, and that it was my imaginary friend. I remembered hearing the children at daycare talking about their imaginary friends, and I was ecstatic to finally get mine. It felt almost like a rite of passage. Our conversations started out fairly normal. We would talk about daycare and the latest episodes of Powerpuff Girls and SpongeBob. Mordred's favorite characters were him and Plankton. I always asked him why he liked the bad guys so much, and he told me that they were simply misunderstood good people. I believed him, and I began to like them too. As I got older, our conversations became more intense. On my first day of school, I got made fun of, and I came home in tears. The first thing I did was run up to my playroom and talk to Mordred. I asked him if the mean children were misunderstood good people, and he said no. He said that they were monsters, and that I should stay away from other children, lest I be corrupted too. I didn't understand, but I obeyed him. He would never teach me wrong because he understood everything. One day, I came home, and my mother told me that we were storing the toys I wanted to keep and having a yard sale for the ones that were collecting dust. I ran upstairs to the playroom, grabbed the phone, and hid it in my room. That day, I didn't talk to Mordred because I was so busy packing and getting things ready to sell. When I talked to him the next morning, he was furious. He said that nothing should ever come between us and that we were best friends. "How am I supposed to protect you if you don't talk to me every day?" he snapped in his overly deep, angry voice. His voice always got very deep when he was angry. I apologized and told him that it wouldn't happen again. My first day of high school was a nightmare. I wanted so badly to go home, call Mordred, and tell him about the awful things my classmates had said about me. They would whisper to their friends that I was a freak. They said it was no wonder I didn't have any friends because I was crazy. Maybe I was crazy, but the only friend I needed was Mordred. This fact, however, didn't make their cruel words hurt any less. I came home in tears once again. Ignoring my mother's questions, I rushed upstairs to my room and shut the door. I rummaged around the bottom of my closet for my phone, which was emitting its familiar haunting melody. "Mordred, it's Charlotte," I sobbed. "What's the matter, Charlotte? Did the bad people hurt you again?" he said slowly. "They whisper things. They say I'm a freak. Am I a freak, Mordred?" "Oh no, Charlotte. You're not a freak. You're special, and they don't understand. You really think so? I sniffled. Yes. I'm tired of those bad people hurting you, Charlotte. They won't hurt you anymore. I promise. Click. I looked at the handset and placed it slowly back onto the top of the phone. He had never hung up on me before. I shrugged it off as him being over-emotional and went downstairs for dinner. My mother was waiting at the bottom of the stairs. Honey, what is wrong? You seem so upset. Nothing's wrong, Mom. I'm fine. I just had a rough day, I muttered. What's for dinner? Mother wore a worried look on her face, and she quietly replied, Pasta. I smiled and walked happily into the kitchen to make a plate. I went to school the next day, and it was relatively uneventful. The bad people weren't at school that day. I figured they were all skipping school together, but I was very wrong. When I got home, my mother was sitting on the couch, staring at the television with a terrified look on her face. I glanced at the TV as I was placing my book bag on the floor behind the couch. I saw the pictures of all the bad people on the news. They were all missing, except for the worst one named Jessica. She had been found brutally murdered behind her home. My jaw dropped, and my heart jumped into my throat. I dashed up to my room where my phone was chiming eerily. Hello. It's Charlotte. You seem afraid. Are you afraid of me, Charlotte? I didn't know what to say. I was terrified. I knew now that Mordred was something to fear rather than befriend. What did you do to the others, Mordred? I can't tell you. You will tell other bad people, and they will lock you up. I must protect you. I was silent, but I remained on the line. Charlotte, you don't seem very grateful. They are gone. They will never bother you again. I remained silent as I set the handset gently back on top of the phone. Like clockwork, the creepy music box tune began playing, and the eyes on the phone started flipping back and forth. I immediately grabbed the phone, flew down the stairs, and ran out of the house toward the shed. I locked the phone up and ran back into the house. I didn't hear any more from Mordred. Sometimes when I would be outside, I would hear that creepy tune wafting from the cracks in the storage shed. I would always quickly make my way back into the house. I looked down at my watch and noticed how late it had gotten. I really need to head out, Mom. It's going to get dark. She nodded and gave me a hug and a kiss. Oh, Charlotte, take that box with you too. I packed it up forever ago, and it's taking up space. She pointed to a box nestled behind the couch. I walked over to it, picked it up, and hoisted it onto my shoulder. Mother kissed me again on the forehead and told me to be safe as I walked out the door toward my car. It was a tight fit, but I managed to fit the box into my back seat, and I began to drive to my apartment. I stopped at a red light and adjusted my mirror. Just as I was easing my foot on the gas, I heard it. I heard that creepy music in the back seat of my car. I took a deep breath and pulled over before reaching into the box to grab the telephone. Hello? This is Charlotte.